Welcome back, everyone. We are here today with our Mindset and Motivation Monday. Couldn't be more happy to start this week off with you. Excited for what possibilities may unfold. We never actually do really know, but what we can do is we can start to live by certain principles. We can be driven and guided by certain philosophies. And that is what I would like to share with you here today. Because on April 4th, we begin our physical functional medicine detox as a community. Over 10,000 people will come together. We'll do some intermittent fasting. We will get deeper into autophagy. We'll be following a detox-based meal plan, and it is absolutely fantastic. We've been doing this now for, well, about 10 years in my private practice, and as an online group, about 4 years. And we have almost 16,000 members at cabralsupportgroup.com. That is a completely free group. If you'd like to join that, you are welcome to anytime. We're happy to take your questions, cheer you on, and you're also able to connect with others all around the world. So it's absolutely fantastic. We've really built, I think, an amazing community here, and it is you, all of you, that make it amazing. We just try to facilitate and kind of get out of the way at the same time. So here's what I want to share with you here today, because a detox isn't just about the body. It's also to do with the mind. And maybe now more than ever, a detox of the mind is actually as important as it is for the body. I was just on an interview the other day. I can't wait to share it with you and promote it on someone else's podcast. And I gave statistics on all-cause mortality and loneliness and all-cause mortality and social isolation and just basically not being happy in life. And it was pretty remarkable because what they found was that emotional loneliness, or just, again, being like upset, stressed, might be the greatest determinant for early all-cause mortality, meaning like per all cause of death by any degree. And it was pretty interesting. And so I went deeper into the study, and what I found was that here's why. Well, it suppressed the immune system. It increased overall inflammation as a marker of CRP, C-reactive protein. It led to greater cardiovascular disease, dysregulated blood sugar, and much more. So when we look at it, we say, okay, the body is important. There's no doubt about it. It is what carries us through this life. We must keep it healthy. But our mind is what enables us to drive that body. So what I want to share with you today are 5 of the best ways I can think of, but I would love to hear from you. So please post in the comment below on YouTube as well as Instagram. Let me know your favorite ways to basically detox the mind, not the brain. We can talk about the brain as in terms of an organ. With Alzheimer's, dementia, today's the mind. So I want to share with you, and again, I would love to hear from you as well. What are your favorite ways? So the first one for me is this. You need to become, and I've talked about this before, but wildly self-aware in your life. Right? Become radically self-aware. That means you know you better than anyone else. And if you don't know you better than anyone else, that's okay. Ask your partner, your spouse, family member, like, what sets you off? What makes you feel upset or lonely or sad? You feel like you're in despair? Any of those things? Despondent? Like, what is it? And then write those things down, because what you're going to do is to begin to learn what sets you off, what triggers you in a negative way. So now you can do 2 things once you know those triggers. 1, you know it's coming. So you take a deep breath in through your nose, a longer breath out through your mouth. You calm that parasympathetic nervous system. And you say, okay, here it is. I will respond differently this time, right? So that's a reframing. So when you have a conversation with that person that really gets under your skin, you say, okay, here they come. Deep breath in, deep breath out, smile, relax, have the conversation, right? Because sometimes those conversations are inevitable. Now, we'll talk about what to do in step number 2 in just a moment. But there's also things that you can do, and a lot of them are online, right? So it's like, well, what triggers you? What sets you off online? Some people, it's just a social media account that they're following. So meaning like you are following or looking up someone else's work, and every time you look at their work, you get mad, your blood boils. You're like, I can't believe that person is saying that, right? And they get all upset. I talk with other health coaches and integrative health practitioners and doctors. They're like, I can't believe that person, they say ego-based things, that person has so many followers. I can't believe that person said that about fitness or health. That's so wrong. And they get all upset. And I'll just ask them, like, how do you even know that they said that? They're like, well, I follow them. I'm like, you get so upset at this person every single day, and yet you follow them? Do they know that they're following you? Probably not, right? So you are drinking that poison right yourself, right? You are drinking the stress yourself when all you need to do, and this is step number 2, is unfollow many of those triggers online that set you off. So if you know that starting your day reading all the headlines of the news really sets you off and you head down a rabbit hole reading all sorts of different articles that you're just not happy reading, that's a trigger that we need to not do, or take a 3-week sabbatical from doing, rewire the mind, come back, view it differently, maybe with a little bit more of an open mind. Or you set it for a time of the day that enables you to not upset the rest of your day, right? There are different ways of doing this. So my recommendation, first, become wildly self-aware of what are your stress triggers, or any type of emotional base where it just makes you unhappy, because we don't need to compound that unhappiness. There's enough unhappiness. We don't need to create more. And the second is online. Unfollow the accounts that stress you out. Literally do not look at them. Follow accounts that put a smile on your face. There are a lot of motivational accounts out there. There are a lot of accounts that just are your interests. Follow more of those. I think that's a huge tip for a lot of people. Or better yet, stop using social media in general. If you don't need to use it for your work, you can just stop using it. I know many people that have. They're better for it. I am okay with social media. I have no real issues with it. I can direct message with people. I can comment. I can post on there, and I'm good. But one of the reasons why I think I feel that way is I'm on for 10 minutes 3 times a day. That's how I do my social media. I am on there commenting, seeing what's going on. Luckily, I have an amazing team that posts for me. And then I go back into my direct messages. Hey, what are people saying? Okay, here's where you can find out more information about this. I'm not writing the Gettysburg Address to people. I'm writing, a sentence. I can't respond to 100 people with a huge paragraph, but I can at least tell them, hey, here's something else to look into. Here's where to get started, right? So I use it as a way of like, hey, this is a way for me to reach more people that I wouldn't have had before, and I enjoy that. I enjoy talking with other people there, and I fully understand it's not a true conversation. It's definitely not a consultation, and I'm just trying to give out a little bit more tips that maybe they wouldn't have got before, and I just share them. Hey, here's the next step on your journey. That's it, right? So I look at it differently. But if you don't need to use social media, then again, I stopped using Twitter a long time ago. I'm on there. My podcast goes out every day on it, but you won't find me on Twitter. I find Twitter to be a bit of a mess, right? People are just arguing and yelling back and forth. I have no interest in that whatsoever. So if Instagram or anything like that ever turns out to be the same, then I'll leave those too. Like, I have no loyalty to any of these, and certainly I'm not going to ruin my own mental health to use a social media platform created by big tech in order to just get us to spend more of our time on it. Right? I'll go back to the real world, which brings me to point number 3. The 5th best way to detox your brain is to also unfollow people in the real world too. And I know that this one might seem a little bit more controversial, but you don't need to spend more time explaining yourself or your side of the viewpoint in the world to more people. So we've really learned that over the last couple of years. Some people are so locked in to how the world is that they are not open to other suggestions of your viewpoint, right? The world is only one way in their opinion, and their way is the right way. It's amazing how everyone's way is always the right way, right? Everyone's always right. It's just remarkable. So we've got so many people that are right on this side, and so many people are right on this side, yet the viewpoints are just radically different, that yet they're both right. I don't know how that works, but I have explained that on previous podcasts, right? So we all have our own worldview. We all live in our own reality, and in our own reality, we are right. The problem is sometimes our realities intersect with other people's realities, and at that point, we're not living in our own world. So we must step outside of our own bubble, begin to connect with others, maybe listen to their viewpoint. Doesn't mean that we need to change ours, and have a civil conversation. However, if those people are unwilling to have a civil conversation, if they're just spewing literally anger and rage at you, I use it like I do online. I'm like, unfollow, that's it, goodbye, and I hope that you have a good life. That's what I'm wishing them, and then that's it. And I don't know if that seems cold or not cold, but I am unwilling to sacrifice my own personal happiness, my family time, or anything like that to engage with a person that is just hateful, to be honest. Life is way too short for that. Now, let's say it's a coworker or family member or friend, and you don't want to just no longer associate with that person. Well, I think that what you can do is take a few weeks off. Again, I've talked about this before. It was a long, long time ago on a podcast calling How to Take a Sabbatical, right? Taking a sabbatical away from family, friends, et cetera, people. And that's one of the best things to do when you start a health journey or a weight loss journey or any of these things is that like for 21 days, you need to be on a specific nutrition plan and protocol and these different things. And you can't have the crabs in the bucket pulling you back down in the bucket just because you're thinking differently, right? If you've never heard the crabs in the bucket analogy, it goes like this. The reason why you don't need to put a lid over a bucket of crabs, even though they could crawl out, is because when one crab starts to get to the top of the bucket, another crab pulls it back down into the bucket, right? They don't want you leaving the community of despair. Right? That's it. We're all going down with the ship. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes you want to leave. Sometimes you want to go out. Sometimes you want to make something more of your life. Sometimes you want to reach your own personal potential. Not everybody wants that, and that's okay. Or they've reached their personal potential, and that's where they want to be. That's okay too. That's why you don't need to justify yourself to anyone else. It's not their life. It's your life. Right? You're not supposed to be living their life. That's their life. They go live their life. You live your life. So if I have a fundamental difference in philosophy, which I do with many people, I still hang out with them. But if at any point they start yelling at me or arguing with me or telling me, here's why I'm wrong and all that, if it's civil, I'll listen. I'm always keeping an open mind. But if it gets to the point where they start name calling or saying things like that, that's it. I'm sorry. Like, again, maybe you'll change. You'll come around. You don't have to change your opinion, but then we can have a civil conversation. But if you can't be civil, we can't be friends. And that's just part of the conversation sometimes you may get to. And then in terms of family, well, you'll pick and choose when those events take place, right? Because sometimes you'll still see family, but you'll take that deep breath that we talked about in the beginning. You'll realize that it's one of your triggers. You'll talk maybe not as much, right? You won't share any controversial viewpoints that you know that are their triggers, and you'll just enjoy a few moments, a few hours with them, and you'll both be on your way. Something to think about. But remember, you can make more friends. You can. You don't have to be locked into just the people that you necessarily have known for most of your life. Now, the fourth one is this. The fourth way is so much stress, right? So much stress in life. There's so much going on in the world, and it seems like it's always the way that it is. But if you begin to live in the moment, I know we've always been told this. I know we're always supposed to practice this. But if you begin to live more in the moment and you ask yourself, okay, there's things that we'll talk about in the past and things that may happen in the future, but how am I right now, right? How are you right now? If you're listening to this and you're driving in the car, how are you? Are you good? Do you have your health? You okay? Family's good? Like, where are you right now? If things are okay, things may be okay. I try to tell people that, right? Like, maybe you are okay. Because many of our problems, they happened in the past. Not a lot we can do right now to change that. I'm not saying they can't be a hardship, but most of our problems, they happen in the past. And most of our worries, well, they're out there in the future, and they've never occurred. So what happens is we get depressed about the past, we get anxious about the future, we forget about the right now. So if I'm living in the right now, and I'm like, things are good. Like I could have a million things that could go wrong in the future. And certainly I've had things go wrong in the past. But right now, I'm good. I'm happy. I can be happy. I'm grateful for what I do have. It's something to think about. It's something to think about, like, at this moment, right now, are things okay? Good. Now take that forward another minute from now, 10 minutes from now, an hour from now. Maybe nothing will go wrong in the next few days, weeks, months, or years to come. It's a different way of looking at life. I definitely recommend practice it for a bit. The fifth one is this. The fifth best way to detox your mind, I'll give you a little personal story as well, is to take a trip. Now, again, this doesn't need to be an extravagant trip. But now that we've seemed to have a little bit more freedom of movement, of travel, it may not be a bad idea to take a 2-day, 3-day trip. Get away from the life that you have right now, a life of maybe stress and all sorts of angst and worry, and just say, listen, I'm just going to take 2 to 3 days to reset. A Friday, a Saturday, a Sunday. Monday will be there for you when you get back. I just did this. Again, I try to practice gratitude. I try to practice a rule that I always say, listen, in the grand scheme of things, things are great. They really are, right? Things could be so much worse. I'm happy. I'm grateful. right? I keep things in perspective, gratitude and perspective. I always talk about, but it was an opportunity. It was my wife's birthday. And I said, I would love to be able to take her away. My wife and I haven't traveled for years alone as a couple. And so I said, okay, we're going on a trip, just a short flight away. So we took a little trip, just again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's it. And we had the kids, right? Our kids were at home. They were with my mother-in-law. We were not doing any work. Our cell phones barely worked. There's no TV. Not that we're all big TV people in the first place. Just the sun, just beach, good food, relaxation, and each other's company. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I can tell you this. By the time we got home Sunday night, we changed our location, but we were changed as people. We really were. It was a great reset. And you never really think that it may have that profound an effect until you go and do it. And the reason is that we're in it. Like, we've been in it every single day for 2 years. And, you know, someday I'll share the story, but there are things that we decided to change in our life for the good of our two daughters, meaning that in terms of the schools they were at, we didn't feel that it was appropriate for them to be following certain policies that the schools implemented that we didn't think were right for their mental health. So my wife and I put our two daughters before ourselves and everything else. So we just made sure that during those past 2 years that they didn't have to have the stress, the anxiety, the worry of living in a society and culture and city that was going to be detrimental to their long-term well-being. So it was very stressful. There's no doubt about it. And what we realized, though, after 2 years is that we can go anywhere, we can do anything, we can change schools, and at the end of the day, we have each other, we have our family, and that's really all we need. We don't need a big fancy house. We don't need all sorts of different fancy cars. We don't need really anything. And that to us, I think, was a tremendous benefit. Maybe it was to a lot of other people as well. But also taking the time and having a weekend together, just the two of us, is enabling us to say, yes, our daughters are the most important thing in our life, but so are we to each other. And so we had that weekend to really be able to reset, and it is pretty remarkable. So for anyone, you could take an hour drive. Again, we only took an hour flight, really short, right? But you can take an hour drive, you can take an hour and a half drive, and when you get to that destination, maybe it's a cabin in the woods, right? Maybe it's a little place on the beach, whatever it might be. But what it does is it's a reset from your everyday life. So leave the social media behind, leave the TV shows behind, all of those things, and just simply be, think, relax, journal, take a walk, eat healthy food, don't overconsume alcohol. Just enjoy the now. If you do that, I truly believe, and if you make this a practice, if you make it a philosophy in life, you're going to be that much happier, and that's going to translate to your overall health as well. Remember, loneliness, emotional despair, social isolation, all of these things matter for our health as well. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you so much as always for your time, your attention. I appreciate you. If this show was helpful, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing week.